if I had to play the same solo twice in a row, gun to my head, I'll see ya. There's no way I can do it. Now I let all that in. So I know that there's always some stuff that I'm going to play that I have no idea what it is. And that's my comfort zone, like doing an open intro to a tune. Like I love that. As long as I know a destination, there's always a way to get there. But it is nice to have like maybe a shape in mind or a goal or a destination. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Another thing that we had just very briefly chatted about before we actually started recording, and actually I'll get to that, but you just made me think of one thing that a good friend of mine said, and he basically just said, I was going through a bit of a hard time as well, and I was kind of telling him how I was almost annoyed that it was making me more musically inspired, because I've almost had arguments with people in the past, like, you don't need to be sad to write good music, but it was almost annoying me. I was like, but it did make me write like 10 things faster than I have in 2 years. You know what I mean? And he said a really interesting thing, which was just, when life gets really comfortable, there are less different types of energy flowing through you. But whenever you experience any emotion, whether it's anxiety or sadness or anger, if you're a musician and you use your instrument, you're essentially allowing that energy to flow out through the instrument. So if you're someone else, you might let it flow out by yelling at someone or playing sports, But if you sit down when you're feeling that energy, you're basically channeling the emotions right through. And I think that's probably why it feels so cathartic sometimes to just get up after playing, especially when it's been really emotional and you're like, wow, I some people process maybe by sitting and thinking, and some of us maybe as musicians sometimes we process by actually just playing, and being real.
Absolutely. And the only thing on some level I would add is that I think it's also okay for folks to know that, if you are feeling super sad or angry and you sit down to play and nothing good comes out, that's okay too, because that'll definitely happen. I think there's times where I've felt in a shitty mood and I sit down to play and I'm just coming up with a bunch of corny stuff that I don't like, and then I just get even more mad because I'm like, not only does my life suck, but now I can't play apparently. And like, there's a lot of pressure you can put on yourself because you're like, but I'm sad. There it is. Like, give me the emotion or whatever, and sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't. And so, but I think it's okay because it can be easy to beat yourself up sometimes too with like sometimes if like you're not able to turn it in the moment. I think when you were saying like, you know, like just going and creating 10 different things, I on a compositional level, I used to call it the rule of 1 out of 10, but I'm starting to think it's more like 1 out of 20. But I really think that at the bare minimum, we have to write 10 tunes to get one good one usually. And without those other 9, or in my case probably 19, is more or less the correct ratio there. Unless you go through those, you're not going to get to the one good one and stuff. And so there's no sense beating yourself up if you write a tune that kind of sucks too, because then there you go, put it in a stack, come back to it. I mean, I save all of the compositions that I've written for, uh, 30 years. I have compositions I wrote 30 years ago. Ah, it's scary. I feel so old. But yeah, like I have compositions from dating all the way back and then, and I've saved everything. They're all in. So sometimes I'll pick up a big stack of stuff that I wrote maybe 20 years ago or something. I'll read through it and I'll grade it like a school teacher. I'll just be like F, B minus. The bridge is okay, and then save that or whatever. And then digging through some of those ideas, there's always like little bits and pieces that are kind of cool. Or now that your life is in a different place, or it's a different context to hear that music. So it means something different. But by I think one thing that having an emotional moment can help with is getting some of that quantity out at least. And so sometimes there will be moments. I've had moments of being totally dumbfounded, heartbroken, depressed, everything, and occasionally when you get a good song out when you're in that state of mind, that really does help. It's really nice because then it just gives you that little bit of a confidence boost and stuff. There was in the making process of this new album, which is going to be coming out in March of 2024. And when my mom passed back in last November, I'm still in the process of trying to figure out how to plan her service and all this kind of stuff. And initially, it took a long time for me to be able to have the time and emotional strength to like read through some of her writings and things like that, and kind of try to get to know my mom better that way. And also, I knew she had planned out her memorial service somewhere in there, and sure enough, she had. So that's eventually going to make my life easier. But some of the things in her writing, she was a frustrated writer. Like, she had so many barriers and blocks to get her ideas out. She had dementia, so she was very aware of her own mental deterioration, and she was aware of like all sorts of different. She kept writing lists of places she wanted to go and things that she wanted to see and things like that. And truth be told, over the last you know, bunch of months and things, you know, I'll have good days and bad with that, you know, where sometimes you lose a parent and it wallops you and in different ways, and that orphan feeling kicks in and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd have moments of like, you know, extreme sadness where like also, you know, I sit down to play and nothing's really coming out, like nothing good is coming out, you know. So I started making it less about like, what do I need to create right here? And then I started looking at her words, and her words staring me in the face were like these unbelievable some of her writings were amazing, you know, like had lines like writers write, or so I'm told, I'll do it all before I'm old, and you have to tell my stories for me, and things like that. And I was just like, you know, so then all of a sudden, world of inspiration there. I put together a song that's on this new record that it's all phrases and sentences taken from my mom's emails, from her drafts, from her writings. And I had Lisa Fisher and Julian Lage together. Lisa sung this tune, and there's a song in this new record with my mom's lyrics. But the tune came together once I started hearing her words. And so I think sometimes too, when you're angry and upset and sad and you sit down to try to create something, I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to like, we know, a lot of us know that, you know, hey, when you're sad, you can get some good music out and all that, you know, but then that pressure kicks in, and sometimes that generates its own weird emotional sense of writer's block. But the second you can look somewhere else for other ideas and just, you know, try to find something that inspires you, or something you didn't notice about this bird's nest that's outside your front door, or something else, or just something that like that you can connect with, that doesn't have to come from all this weight on your shoulders. You create everything, create something great. It's like, no, look around you and find things that could serve as that inspiration, and be selfless about it too, and like get out of your own head.